Hello, it's Dan here. I'm a triathlete and I'm a Whirlwind ambassador. I wanted to produce a video which sort of looks at the way that I use running shoes for different purposes, depending on the sorts of training I'm doing. If you have the opportunity to have more than one pair, it can really help for lots of reasons, such as injury prevention and for targeting particular types of fitness through the range from your everyday zone 2 easy running all the way through to some very specific specialized sorts of exercises such as fartlek and interval training, as well as things like your race day shoe as well. So I wanted to talk through a bunch of different shoes. I'm a huge fan of Hoka shoes. I have been for ages now, probably about 5 years, just because whilst I've been using Hoka, they've never given me any injuries specific to running at all. So I think obviously there's something that works for me, that there's a fit that works really, really well in that respect. And they also produce so many different shoes, and I know that the market is really saturated. But Hoka produce shoes for absolutely everything you could possibly want, everything from trail running through, almost like climbing applications, through marathon, 10K, 5K, triathlon, everything you could possibly want, as well as their everyday, zone 2 shoe, which I would probably say is the Clifton, which is this one. As you can tell, it's heavily used, but this is many iterations of this shoe, the Clifton. This is the Clifton 9. I think the Clifton 10 is now with us. Every single iteration of that shoe has been incredible for my just everyday running. So if that's a shoe that interests you, then Whirlwind always have those in stock and they're fantastic. I'm going to talk through the various different feel of the different shoes, as well as their weights as well, because I think that's quite interesting. So in terms of what I do, my zone 2 running, which is just my everyday steady state running, which is where I can kind of like almost have a chat, as I talk to myself as I'm running, just to check that my heart rate is not getting too high. Then I would always use the Clifton. It's probably because it's got one of the biggest soles in terms of comfort and thickness, and it's exceptionally forgiving and just comfortable for everyday running. It's just very, very easy shoe to just do really good work at zone 2 and stuff. You could run harder in those, that would be no problem at all. But it is a very soft, it's not the most responsive shoe. There are other shoes in the Hoka lineup that do that job a little better, but it is like running with marshmallows on. It doesn't give you any particular road feel or anything like that. Just a general nice feeling about the way you're running. Okay, it's very, very thick. Foot plant as well. Wide toe box. Nice grippy heel. It's just a really solid functional shoe. So that's the Clifton. So this shoe I've absolutely fallen in love with. Not that one. This one. This is the let's get that in the shot. That's the Hoka Mark X2. This has become probably one of my favorite Hoka shoes ever, and is basically an interval trainer. So this is for your all of your interval work, your sort of sprint based work, your track running and things like that, where you need quite a responsive shoe. You need to know where you are on your foot. So because I'm a toe off runner, a lot of my work happens right at this front section here, but there's also a polycarbonate plate that runs the entire length of the shoe. So it's actually really quite stiff. It's really hard work to bend that. That means that when I'm actually running in it, it's got a really nice feeling of snap. The only way I can describe is it makes you feel really confident that you can get all of your session done in this shoe. It's a feel-good shoe. It makes me feel happy when I'm running in it, and it amazes me, the bounce you get off that. But also it's precision. It's a very precise shoe. You really know where you are on the road with that one. The Clifton Mac X2, that's an incredible shoe for intervals, fartlek, anything like that. It will be a great 5K shoe as well. And then we get on to probably my personal favorite, I would guess, is the flagship shoe, which is the Rocket X2. Again, now this is, in terms of stiffness, again, it's really hard to bend that. Now this has got actually a full carbon plate, all right, and a very, very thin upper. So the upper in the Mac X2, it is knitted, but it's actually, as you can see, it's quite a thin upper it's designed to be very light, and I'll talk about weight in a minute, but that's quite a thin upper, though it is knitted. Whereas this one, if I show you my hands in there, you can actually see my fingers through that. It's almost see-through. Well, it is see-through. You can see your toes. It's a bit weird, but it's incredibly light as a result. Very, very thin upper. Very thin sort of heel stays as well, and not a lot of padding. You get a little bit of padding there just to guide your foot in, I suppose. But that is Hoka's super aggressive, carbon plated, personal best PB shoe, that one. Okay, so I absolutely get on with this. I adore this. As you can tell, I don't run it very much. I run it just for my main races, really, because I'm looking after it. Slightly higher price point as well with that one. So I suppose the last one that I would talk about, which again I don't use very often, and the reason I don't use these very often is because this guy came along, and you know, there's a lot of similarity between them. As you can see, it's a knitted upper, but it's very, very thin. Sorry, I should say which one this is and get this right. This is the Nike Air Zoom Alpha Fly Next Percent. Now, they don't do this shoe anymore, but I thought I'd include it in this review just because in terms of comparisons, this would be very similar to the Hoka Rocket X2 in terms of performance. Everyone goes on about how quick this one runs. It's a really unusual shoe in terms of its running profile. It's very aggressively forcing you forwards. And the other thing I'd say about it, it ain't a triathlon shoe. It's very tricky to get that on. It's quite tight. It's a tight, close-fitting shoe anyway. Exceptionally aggressive. Obviously, this has been responsible for some of the fastest running in the world. Not by me, obviously, but by those that can run properly. But the reason I'm including it is because in many ways, the Hoka Rocket X2 is a very similar shoe. I'm going to run through some of the weights before I finish up. So the Clifton comes in at 260 grams on my scale. Okay, that's per shoe, obviously. So 260 grams for that one. The Mac X2, this guy here, the interval shoe of dreams, that comes in at 250 grams, so it's slightly lighter than the Clifton, but surprisingly, you know, it's not a lot in it between these two. Then the Rocket X2s, all right, this is an exceptionally light shoe. This is 230 grams, okay? So you've got 20 grams saving per shoe, 40 grams overall on that shoe. And interestingly, the Alpha Fly Next Percent is 228 grams, so pretty much identical with the Rocket X2. In terms of stiffness, it's working quite hard to get that plate bending. It's about the same in terms of stiffness, okay, with the Rocket X2 compared to the Nike. So there you go. That's an overview of the way I use my shoes. I've got a shoe for every day, zone 2. I've got a shoe for interval, getting your heart rate up to zone 3, zone 4, threshold, getting towards heart rate max. And then obviously the race day shoe, which is where you're probably going to be at max heart rate for most of your 5K run if you're doing a sprint triathlon, which is what I would do, but that's the shoe for that. And just as an interesting comparison, an alternative, I'm pretty much a Hoka guy, so that's where most of my running happens. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you guys again soon. Cheers, bye.